All right.
I probably can't do it.
No, you don't think you can? Maybe I can rename you.
It's under more.
The three dots at the top right of your picture there.
Yeah, caption. Oh, okay. Yeah, there we go.
Rename. Working through some technical difficulties here. Wilton is the best.com. Will's changing his name right now to Wilton wins everything.org. It's the suspense. What's it going to be? What's your name going to be?
Oh,
yes. Nice.
yeah.
Welcome to Real Estate One Take. I'm David.
I'm Wilton.
I need to compliment Will on his salt and pepper hair for a second. It gives you such an air of regality, legalness.
Yeah, we were talking about how I should paint the backdrop here because on this side it looks like my hair stops here because of the salt in the two, salt and pepper. It looks like my hair stops here for some reason. See, now you can see that it doesn't.
I can see that clearly.
I'm not reverse balding.
Right.
Oh yeah.
A couple of hot topics today. There's a good bit going on in the real estate world, and we're going to talk through some of this. Now, I'm going to lead off saying that neither Will nor myself is an attorney and knows anything about the law, nor would present ourselves as attorneys. However, there is a civil case happening right now. It's called Burnett versus NAR, or stands for National Association of Realtors. And I'm just going to read the statement put out by the NAR, or National Association of Realtors. So National Association of Realtors is the national professional association of real estate agents or realtors. And so what they do, they advocate. It's like a political lobbying, professional standards, ethics. And they advocate for consumer interest is kind of their mission statement.
And so agents choose to become members of the National Association of Realtors, and that is the only way that a real estate expert or a real estate agent can use the term realtor.
Mm-hmm. Someone calling themselves a realtor means they're held to a higher standard of ethics. You know, there's quite a few hoops you got to jump through. So the idea is someone presenting themselves as a realtor, you're going to get a different level of service, different quality of experience versus a real estate professional who's not. And that has been our experience and my experience.
Generally that's the experience. Yes. Just like in every profession, there's always some bad apples, but generally that's the experience.
So we talked it up for a second, and now we're going to talk a bunch of crap about it. So,
well, I mean, when people start getting litigious, then it gives us reason to have these conversations.
All right, so I'm just going to read. I'm not going to read all of this, so don't go to sleep on me here. You know what? I'm not going to read this one. Let me go back to a different one here because there's. Here we go. Okay. So there's a group of homeowners filed a class action lawsuit, I think in Missouri, against the National Association of Realtors. Is that right?
Somewhere around Kansas City.
Yeah. A federal jury in Kansas City on Tuesday found the National Association of Realtors, NAR, some of the largest real estate brokers in the country, guilty of colluding to inflate real estate commissions. What does colluding mean, Mr. Will Bowman?
That means that people are having conversations specifically about that topic and how they're doing business and comparing and contrasting and creating some understanding of some standard, which when we talk about the word standard, that's a really, really dirty word in a business that's supposed to be a relational business. It's supposed to be a business where you create you sell yourself, and then you create an interaction between you and the buyer or the seller on how exactly the fee structure works and what the services that you're offering, and then the fee that you charge. Not that there is a standard fee. This is a negotiation between a buyer and an agent, or a seller and an agent. And in this case, it's a buyer and a realtor, and a seller and a realtor.
Well described. Well described. So I'm going to say it in a, so what they are being accused of to inflate real estate commissions is I'll put it in slightly less professional term is I'm a realtor in South Carolina. This is purely examples. I'm a realtor in South Carolina and Will's a realtor in Georgia. Two totally different companies, two totally different brokerages. I call Will and say, hey, what are you charging your folks? And he says, X percent. I say, great. Let's not charge less than X percent so that we can keep our fees high. That's what they're being accused of. Now, why it matters. The verdict is a major shakeup to the U.S. real estate market and could change how Americans purchase home, or specifically how they pay for brokers' fees. Big picture. The jury, after around 2 weeks of testimony from the plaintiffs and defendants, ordered the N.A.R. Real Estate Franchise, Home Services of America, and Keller Williams to pay $1.78 billion with a B in damages to the sellers of more than 260,000 homes in Missouri, Kansas, and Illinois, the plaintiffs in the case. That is a big old number. The case in just one class action lawsuit against the defendants, and the guilty verdict, if upheld, could spawn new legal actions in other states. What they're saying. Representatives from the N.A.R. and Home Services of America said they plan to appeal the verdict, while a spokesperson for KW said the company would consider appealing. Mantel Williams, N.A.R.'s vice president of communications, said the organization stands by its clear cooperation rule, adding that it will ask the court to reduce the damages awarded by the jury. It will likely be several years before this case is finally resolved. Yeah, there's going to be, anytime there's that much money, you can guarantee there's going to be several rounds of appeals.
And again, this is civil.
Mm-hmm.
This is not criminal. This is a civil case, which means there could be tons and tons and tons of appeals. And like it said, several years before it's actually solved.
Yep. As representatives from N.A.R. and Home Services of America said they plan to appeal the verdict, while a spokesman, I read that part. They stands by the clear cooperation rule, adding to that will ask the court to reduce damages awarded by the jury. And we'll talk about clear cooperation too in a second, because that's a valid point. It will likely be several years before it's resolved. At the heart of the lawsuit is broker commissions. Here we go. Or the fees paid by home sellers to brokers for executing transactions or providing other services, like scheduled property showings, which are generally factored into the listing price of a home. Excuse me. Specifically at issue is the seller's fee payments to the buyer's realtor, which are in part governed by the N.A.R.'s clear cooperation rule. Emily reports. The rule requires, sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, I was going to say, I want to understand, because the only thing that I know right now is the verdict. I really want to understand what's the evidence against that the jury used to make the decision.
I think they're citing the clear cooperation rule, but
just the rule itself.
This rule requires sellers to include a fee offer to the buyer's agent when listing a home. The fee offer is visible to the buyer's agent, but prospective buyers usually do not get access to them. Real estate agents generally must become members of the N.A.R., one of the largest trade associations in the U.S., to gain access to most local real estate databases. Plaintiffs argue that the rule effectively creates a conspiracy. So the rule being the clear cooperation rule, N.A.R.'s clear cooperation rule, creates a conspiracy that artificially drives up home prices, and agents can steer their clients to properties that offer compensation. The rule, they argued, requires sellers to pay inflated commission rates at closing, potentially by tens of billions of dollars annually. Americans paid $85 billion with a B in residential real estate commissions in 2020, according to the DOJ, which previously investigated the N.A.R. for violations of antitrust laws. And this is a good point here. This is not the first one of these lawsuits that's come up. But to be fair, the DOJ did investigate. It was 2020, 2021, and no wrongdoing was found. So because no wrongdoing was found by the DOJ, now it's into the civil court, right? So they investigated it for criminal first, and then it went civil. By the numbers, after news broke of the jury's decision broke, real estate stocks dropped on Tuesday, particularly for those online real estate companies like Redfin. Zillow dropped 7% at one point, while Open Door fell by over 9%.
So what that signals is that investors in real estate companies are saying, hey, that looks like there's going to be some big shakeups that may change the landscape of real estate across the country, and we want out. It just went from real estate being, real estate. Well, the thought is real estate is an asset that continually appreciates in value. So investors want to invest in real estate, and investors want to invest in real estate companies. And when something like this happens, then people say, hey, I wasn't in it for the risk. Seems a little risky. So you got 7%, 9%. What did Redfin drop? I think Redfin got hit the hardest.
Yeah, it doesn't give a drop for Redfin. When the lawsuit was originally filed in 2019, it included a couple of different, it named several different real estate companies, and these are brokerages. Anywhere, I'm not 100% sure. I know Remax is a brokerage, but they agreed to scale back their relationship with the NAR and pay a total of damages as part of a settlement. So the settlement's already been reached. The judge overseeing the case still has to issue a final judgment in the case, which could alter or even ban the cooperative compensation ruling nationally. Depending on the judgment, it can mean that home sellers will not be responsible for paying the commissions of both the listing and the buying brokers. All right, so let's back up and go real estate 101. Will, you take a listing, and how do you incentivize? You take a listing for a certain commission percentage, and how do you incentivize buyers agents to bring buyers to that listing?
I would say the right answer to this is there's no incentive when a buyer wants a product. It's more about communicating to the seller that, hey, in order to get your home sold, we're offering a percentage of the commission that you agreed to pay my brokerage. We're offering a percent of that, portion of that, to a buyer's agent in order for them to bring a buyer. Now, we would never communicate that more would bring more buyers, because the numbers speak for themselves, and that's the best way I can say that. That's the absolute best way I can say that is, the numbers speak for themselves. So you want to give the cooperating broker the best information that you possibly can, the best opportunities to come in and see the property, to show the property to their client, and then try to negotiate for your seller the highest and the best price possible.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, long and short, is I'm not touching the more or less co-broke fee with a 10-foot pole. Not with a 10-foot pole.
And this is a touchy subject, you guys. This is a pretty touchy subject, and it's interesting.
It is.
So the way I explain it when I talk to a seller and is my commission is X percent, whatever percent. And we take a portion of that commission and advertise it on the MLS that we are paying out Y percent to a buyer's agent to incentivize them to bring a buyer. So we do that because over a period of time, what's been proven and what we've seen is that has the highest tendency to accomplish, that has the highest likelihood to help the seller accomplish what they're trying to do, which is sell their house for the most money possible. Right. So a seller hires me because they want to sell their house for the absolute most money possible. Right. Least amount of headache, highest value, shortest amount of time. Those are kind of three things we're trying to accomplish. And in order to avoid launching into my full listing presentation, which I could do it right now, but I won't do it.
Basically, do that. We should take one of these podcasts and just go for it.
That's actually not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea. But we take a portion of the commission and we advertise it out there that we're paying this, that the seller has agreed to pay this. So it's really clearly spelled out in documentation, in any kind of listing agreement or contracts that I sign with the seller. It's clearly advertised. So, but there's apparently a jury that feels like some group of realtors somewhere was not doing a great job of explaining it. Now, I don't know what the Illinois, Kansas, and Missouri contracts look like.
And that's the thing that makes me scratch my head. They've mentioned companies, specific companies in this. So to me, that screams that they've got some evidence that conversations of that nature took place.
Yeah.
Now whether that happened or not, is sort of beside the point, but I'm thinking if you get a jury to, if you present this to a jury, and obviously they had to explain it the way you just explained it, right? The co-brokerage fee
You hope so,
is
right?
right, is a fee that we communicate to our sellers as, hey, we're gonna take X as commission. We're gonna split a part of that X, and that's gonna be Y, and we're gonna pay that Y, that is the co-broke, to a cooperating brokerage or a cooperating broker. So in order to get the home sold. So I mean, that is how a buyer's agent is compensated, or a portion of how the buyer's agent is compensated. And hopefully your buyer's agent is having the same conversation with you as a buyer, to say, this is how this works. We want people to understand that the sellers, in most cases, I mean, it's all across the country, but in most cases, the sellers are offering a percentage of commission for us to bring you to the property. All right. In exchange for us writing a contract, a fully executed agreement to sell that property. So it just means that there has to be some evidence that says that these conversations happened.
Or evidence that they didn't happen, or not enough evidence that they did happen in the correct way.
Yeah. But I mean, this is something that we talk about in, like you said, Real Estate 101. We talk about very, very clearly that this is not, there is nothing standard about that number. And the clear cooperation policy, I thought maybe I should go back and read it again, but I thought it was pretty clear that there's nothing standard about that. That it's a negotiation between the seller and the agent.
Well, let's see. Let's see. I just did my yearly code of ethics training here, so let me pull that up. Let's see what we're working with here. And if you're sitting here listening to this thinking, again, these guys are getting too inside baseball, I'd stick with us because it'll make sense in a second. It'll make sense in a second here. Oh, it's long. I'm not reading this whole thing. I'm not reading this whole thing on here. It's too long. Let's jump right to here's why it matters. Back 2008, 2009, 2010 financial crisis, right? There were several pieces of legislation that were passed as a result of that financial crisis, dealing specifically with lending, with banks, federal regulations, who can get a loan, who can't get a loan. The whole landscape changed in regards to lending. There are comparisons being made to this. Now, this is going to happen in slow motion. Nothing's going to get figured out tomorrow, but there are comparisons to that being made to back then and all the legislation that came out of that. So that changed how lenders get compensated, the fees that a bank can charge, the type of loans they can write, the type of loans they can't write, the documentation requirements, all that stuff changed pretty drastically. This is going to have a pretty similar effect. So if you are buying a house in the next 6 months to a year, it is critically, and this isn't going to change for me necessarily, but it's critically important that you have somebody who's properly explaining, first off, what does it cost? Why does it cost what it does? How does this stuff work? What's challenging for me to understand is I feel like I spend so much time explaining this that and there's so much documentation attached to it that I struggle to, for the paperwork that we use, it's clearly spelled out in a couple of different places. Now, yeah, that's my thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. So long term, what is this going to mean? Nothing right now. I think it's going to mean you're going to, if you enter into the market to sell a home, you're going to need to have an agent who has a really clear understanding of how to explain these things and how to best look out for your interest and how to best position your property to get you the highest amount of money possible. And then to understand the regulations as they change, you need a professional who does this on an everyday basis. You need somebody who's at the forefront of what's happening. I think this is going to be a pretty big shift for real estate professionals in general. I think, the last couple of years have been pretty easy. easier for real estate agents in general. Some folks got into the business in the last couple of years for the first time. Maybe you thought this is just the way the market is all the time, and let me tell you, it ain't.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen more than 60,000 agents in 2023 leave the business.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because I mean, well, some of it is because of the things that we're talking about here, but some of it is because just it doesn't, it runs in cycles. There are years that are easier than others, but the business doesn't just fall in your lap. I mean, it's not something that just comes to you. Especially if you're a new agent. A lot of new agents got in the business in 2019, 2020, like David said, and they got a whirlwind experience and they were rah, rah, rah. And then the end of 2022 happened and 2023 happened. And they said, oh, this feels different.
Yeah.
So,
And let me make this point that, a lot of folks are struggling out there, but dude, this is the best year that my little organization that I'm in charge of has ever had, ever, by like 50%, like 48% better, like ever. So why? Well, because first off, we all do this as a profession. One, we're all in it. This is what we eat, sleep, breathe, live. This stuff, these conversations, it's a big thing for that. And that's what a lot of time is going to end up carrying you through, the ups and the downs, the backs and the forths, the highs and the lows. It's the fact that you put in work you didn't start yesterday. You've been putting in work for months, years on end, and you're reaping fruit and you're reaping a harvest from stuff that you planted 6 months, 8 months, a year ago, so on and so forth.
And just my business, I am 96.2% higher production this year in 2023 than I was in 2022.
And that's amazing. So, and I feel like maybe that's sometimes something that we undersell. Maybe we bury the lead here, because a lot of times we talk about interest rates are doing this, the market's doing that, yada, yada, yada. We're knocking it out of the freaking ballpark. I'm sorry for everybody else, but I'm doing really well.
Yeah. And really the thought process, at least for me, and I can't speak for the whole team, but for me is 60,000, let it be 100,000, leave the business. I need more market share. It's more market share.
I like that attitude.
Is what it is. Sorry, not sorry.
We're going to keep it brief and bright today. Do some Googling on your own. Hire a professional. One of these people in these frames right here. Hire a professional. Hire somebody who is neck deep in this stuff every day, because that's what you need. Yeah. That's what you need, man.
But it's because of things like this that, we see people leaving the business where you and I have moved into the recruiting.
Yeah.
Like I'm happy to see people see companies leaving the business, because that leaves more room for really, really good agents joining the Emerald City team, joining the David Carter team, the Selling Carolinas team. It's for us, it's about market share, and we do this like David said, we do this professionally. We're in renovations, we're in short-term rentals and long-term rentals, and I mean, if it's real estate, then let's have a conversation. Yeah. If you have ideas on what you want to see on this podcast, make sure that you email us. The email address, David?
realestate1take@gmail.com, or we have two email addresses: realestate1take@gmail.com, or RE1T@gmail.com, or comment on Facebook, comment wherever you see this, like YouTube.
RE1T
RE1T@gmail.com. Drop a comment. Tell me that I need to dust my trophies. Something. Right. Just
tell me my hair looks stupid against the white wall.
Tell Will that he needs to paint his back wall so that he doesn't look he has weird bald spots. Whatever you want to say.
We're listening.
We are listening. All right. Thanks for watching.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Stop.